At the beginning of my transition, I was very angry because I was biologically female.
Hmm.
I had to process how different the world would be, how different the men's room would be.
Hmm.
And, it took years to finally look inward and say to myself that it's not a medication that's solving my problem. It's me that's solving it, and me that's taking steps, and me
Right.
that has to come to the realization that accepting myself and accepting loving myself was crucial.
Hey, everybody. Caught myself another one. I'm keeping my energy level down because my teeth, and also because I'm close to the mic. I don't want it to sound all crazy. So first off, thanks everybody. I always appreciate you showing up to watch these important interviews, and I'm always so lucky to have these great guests come on and share their perspectives on everything that's happening in the world today. And again, liking, subscribing. I hate saying it, but I kind of have to. The more my channel grows, the more the world sees other opinions on what's happening. And I think that's extremely important. So, as you know, I always appreciate everybody showing up and giving feedback and comments. So, with that, today I have this awesome guy, James, and I would like James to introduce himself and then we'll move forward from there. Hey, James, nice to see you, buddy.
This is always exciting. So, good morning, everybody.
Right on.
I'm James Jenson-Grace. I'm a trans man who started my transition when I was about 18, 19 years old. It took me about 2 years to get on hormone replacement therapy. And then it took me quite a few more years to eventually get my top surgery. And then after that, 10 years to finally get my name changed, which I'm glad it took me
Mhm.
10 years so that I could choose the name that fit me the best.
Mhm.
Um, so, yeah, that's the main thing.
Right on. So, you started transitioning how long ago?
When I was about 18, 19 years old,
And you're how old now? I'm sorry.
31.
Oh, 31. Okay. So is that how many years? Say it. My math.
We gotta count.
I
It
gotta
was long
count
ago.
many, many years ago. Awesome, my friend. So that being said, you moved through an actual system, sort of like how I did, right? You said you had to go through a couple years of therapy and all of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I did, and I did a lot of research through was it transguys.net?
Mm, hmm.
Is
I
that the one
remember.
or .com? I can't quite
I
remember.
think it was .net or something. I remember that site. I think is it still
Yeah,
around?
I believe so, but I don't think it's
Right.
being updated as frequent.
Mm,
So, yeah, I did a lot of research through primarily there because I couldn't find any other information, truly.
right.
Um, and then it took me a bit. I wanted to live full time first
Mm,
and kind of go about just my day to day life.
mm,
And that was the first time that I actually felt like a big relief on like all the cares in the world were kind of, they didn't matter because I had something else to focus on, and that was me and my personal growth.
right
So
on.
just like it took 2 years to finally say, hey, I want to start hormone replacement therapy. And we got rolling on that. I thought the best thing was my voice going lower. I could finally sing like Josh Turner, get nice and low. Uh, and then throughout the journey, I mean, I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've lived in a lot of rural communities.
Mhm.
So, for instance, like my top surgery, they were denying I had to go through a few therapists, and they ended up denying the therapy letter that I had
Mhm.
originally. So I had
Wow.
to scramble to get another therapist letter. Um,
Mm,
and that was just like an immediate emergency appointment that was set
mhm,
up with
mhm,
another provider,
mhm,
like 2.5 hours away or something.
mhm.
And I literally went in there and met with her for like 30 minutes and was able to get the next letter done. But looking
Wow.
back, I almost think that that was a scary process. I mean, had
Yeah.
I not had the other letter, that would have been so quick. Um, yeah,
Wow.
but I was able because I had 30 days. I had a 30-day window that I had to figure out getting another letter for my top surgery so that I could be accepted through insurance.
Wow. So basically the other therapist that you were using wouldn't just give you a letter to go and have
She
top surgery.
did, but she ended up finally getting her credentials sorted. Like, I
Mhm.
think she was. I don't understand all the credentials with
Sure.
therapists or anything, but she was doing her, I think, clinicals, and then
Mhm.
she moved into finally getting her letters at the end of her name, and that's
Right.
why they denied it right away.
Oh,
So
I
I had to go
see.
find somebody else
And
last
someone
minute.
else just did a quick intake with you and gave you the letter?
They did, yeah. I
Wow.
was very appreciative, and
Of
had I
course.
not done all that groundwork, I mean, that was 2016 that I had my top surgery. So
Mhm.
had I not done that groundwork, I think that would have been a scary process of just kind of moving forward quickly. So,
Well, yeah, because, I mean, isn't the whole point to sort of have some therapy to make sure you're making the right choice, to
yeah,
have irreversible, I don't care what anybody says, irreversible you can't get your boobs back once you remove them.
yeah, yeah,
So,
truly. It's a
yeah,
big decision to make, and I think we can all agree that we just want some. Everybody says gatekeepers, but I think
right.
honestly we just need to have this in place, like the youth, the young adults, everybody.
Mhm,
We should all be seen and primarily focus on the mental aspect and moving forward with that. I mean, who's supposed to prepare, like, we can't prepare for that moment that we're going to start transitioning into a male because everything's different. Social norms are different. The way you process anger is very different. Had
mhm,
I not gone through therapy and continued therapy,
mhm.
I would have had probably angry outbursts because I was mad at the world for being born as a girl.
That's
But
right.
biologically, I am female transitioning to male. So,
That's
had I
right.
not had these steps to grow into my malehood, I probably would be lost and continuously angry. So I'm very happy that there were steps to take so that I could kind of grow and, you know, figure out that anger is no longer here and here. It's starting to be in my fist and I want to fight because I got testosterone in my system. So it was very, very different. And I feel
Mhm,
like now it's coming to a very different time. I think
mhm,
truly we do all agree that there needs to be gender affirming care,
mhm,
but it needs to be in a step by step process so somebody can grow and learn to kind of love themselves instead
mhm.
of put it all on a medication, you know?
There you
I
go.
think about that a lot actually. I got to share this with you, Buck.
Yeah,
Uh, if I didn't, how did I word this one day? It was, I had to come to the realization to accept her in order to grow into him. And that took me a
that's right.
long time to really realize. At the beginning of my transition, I was very angry because I was biologically female.
Mhm,
I had to process how different the world would be, how different the men's room would be.
mhm.
And, it took years to finally look inward and say to myself that it's not a medication that's solving my problem. It's me that's solving it and me that's taking steps and me
Brilliant.
that has to come to the realization that accepting myself and accepting loving myself was crucial,
That's right.
you know?
Oh my god, so you're great, brilliant, beautiful. One of the things I wanna say is that I notice a lot of us older, trans people have kind of the same idea with this transition, and, understanding that it's not gatekeeping, it's just to make sure you are going to have a healthy, positive transition to live how you want to live. It's in no way, shape, or form a negative thing. I think there's a newer generation of people who are being taught that quote unquote gatekeeping is anti right trans when I think you too sounds like to me consider it more positive transitioning, right? I mean you're such a grounded guy. I already know that about you, but you're very grounded, you're very focused. But one of the things that you said here that I resonate a lot with is self-discovery. This is a journey of self-discovery and it's about you. It's not about your friends or how you're going to sort of look to the world. It's inward. This is an inward journey and the outward comes from you can't you can't have a journey, a positive journey without going inward first and then outward if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It takes a lot of work to look in the mirror and say to yourself like, "Hey, I love you. We got one life
Right.
to live.
Right.
We don't need to make decisions right away.
Right.
I mean, it took me 2 years to finally say, "I do wanna start hormone replacement therapy."
Yeah.
And I'm glad it did because I needed to process the beginning of my transition and really
Mhm.
know, am I trans
Mhm.
or is there potential that I might be a lesbian, you know?
Right.
I
Right.
remember back in like 6th grade, the one lesbian that I met, I was questioning, like, am I a
Mhm.
lesbian too? So coming to being older, I had played
Mhm.
an online game and I played a male character and I had met this guy. He went by Maverick
Mhm.
and he talked to me about it and was like, you play a male character, so let's talk about it a little bit more. And we talked for a bit. I think we talked for a few hours and he's like, man, I think you're just a trans guy that's closeted.
Wow.
And we kind of laughed about it. And then he said, I was going to my first drag show.
Mhm.
Uh, and he said, I think I was 18 at the time. And he said to me, when you go, just go as yourself, dress in the attire that you want to dress in and
Mhm.
enjoy what you do.
Mhm.
So I went up there and there was a speaker that was there. She was a disabled black woman and she kept calling me her chocolate man, her white chocolate man. And I was getting a kick out of it because I was like, whoa, that's like so affirming.
Mhm.
Wow, okay.
Mhm.
And then when I got back after the drag show, Mav was like, if you want to pick a new name and maybe just explore that for the next few weeks, you should.
Mhm.
And my journey from there was just like, I'm going to live full time as a male when I move out. I moved to a different city.
Mhm.
I started living full time male, and nobody prepared me for going and applying for jobs and
Mhm.
realizing that people aren't going to hire a trans person. They
Mhm.
made it very clear. I had an interview where I thought I was going to get it, and he looked at me and said, or he asked about my name. Why do you
Right.
put this name down? And I said, well, I'm a trans man, and that's something that can just be between you and me. It doesn't need to go on the floor or anything.
Mhm.
And he looked at me and said, I'm not going to hire another trans person. We've had issues before. And this was how many years ago? So,
What year was that? Do you
uh, like
roughly
over 10 years,
10
just
years
about.
ago?
So
Yeah.
roughly
Okay.
10 years, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
So, yeah, from there, it was just like,
Wow.
I stood up and I said, "Well, you just lost your best damn employee you could have had."
There you go.
And then
That's
I
so
just kinda
sad.
kept moving forward and dealing with, all that judgment from everybody around me,
That's right.
and it was definitely a lot harder than it is now, for sure. Um,
Oh gosh.
Now
Yeah.
it seems like it's just right up in your face all the time, so, yeah,
Which I don't particularly think is also a good thing. I mean, I think we need to find,
no,
some trans. Well, it's just my opinion, but I just don't think trans should be like the number one thing you lead in your life with. It shouldn't be stamped on your
yeah,
forehead and shouldn't be something that you expect to get a job because you're trans, or or people to feel sorry for you, which is kind of where I see it happening more today. Feels like a very victimy. It doesn't feel like old school trans when we were just like, yeah, we're trans, let's get in the world and let's make ourselves badass dudes. And now I feel like it's a very victimy, woe is me, trans rights are human rights, you're a
it's
turf,
changed.
it's very negative. The
Yeah,
sort of, I think what we as trans community are putting out into the world is not a positive representation, in my opinion.
it's changed, and the people that are speaking the loudest in front of these decision makers
Hmm.
aren't coming at it with the intelligence
Hmm.
and the emotional intelligence side of things. They're really
Right.
coming at with just a lot of anger
Yeah. So
and the emotional freak out.
let's get into that a little bit. As an older trans guy, and you transitioned a long time ago, but why do you think there's a sort of this newer generation of trans men or trans mask or non-binary trans or all of this kind of identification? Why do you think? And I honestly, I see a lot of anger, and I see a lot of anger towards older trans guys like us. And why do you? I
Yeah,
just would like to get your opinion on that. Why do you think that is?
I've been kind of experiencing a very interesting thing.
Mhm.
It's hard to find and formulate the words here, but bear
Mm.
with me. As a white trans man, I have been dealing with backlash because I have received everything I wanted. You're a man in this world. You're a white man in this world. You have privilege. You have privilege. You have privilege. And I'm being told to sit down and let other people speak. And I feel like there's this wall that people are putting up
Yeah,
and putting you in this room because you already have privilege. You shouldn't be talking about, whatever it is.
yeah,
But unfortunately, a trans woman can't speak for me.
that's
You
right.
know, unfortunately, people that aren't within the FTM community can't really formulate what we go through.
That's right.
And a lot of people think, I've noticed that a lot of people that are coaches, even that
Mhm.
are trying to coach trans men and trans women when they're just a trans woman. I can't relate to that. I can't relate to most of the organizations that are out there now because your primary focus is not hiring any trans masculine individuals
Mhm.
to be able to take care of us.
Mhm.
Like FTM pioneers are forgotten about. Like
Totally.
who knows Jude Patton? Who knows
Nope.
any of these guys?
That's right.
Nobody
Lauren
does.
Cameron. I mean, wow,
Rest
there's
in
some.
peace.
That's right. I mean, there's a lot of guys before me, and yeah, and
Some
no,
men that
we
are
don't
in
even
their
talk.
80s.
That's right. We don't even talk about them or even understand. We've been around for a long time, kiddos. You did not create this space. And so that being said, is what's the anger? What are they
I think
angry
it's
at?
just that instant gratification that's taken over so much. So if you don't
Oh,
accept what I'm putting out there, then you're immediately going to be against it. And I want to be accepted immediately
mhm,
versus taking time to explore and learn ourselves.
mhm.
I just read
That's
an
right.
article not too long ago, and I think it said there were 72 genders that have been broken down. And when I read through it, I was like, man,
What?
most of these can be put under three categories. Like, really? And, like anytime that I've ever come to the table with some solutions around
Mhm, mhm,
pronoun use,
mhm,
primarily that we might not have to use pronouns at all.
mhm,
When you go through a drive-through, you don't need to say, "Thank you, ma'am. What will you
mhm,
be having, ma'am, sir?"
mhm.
Whatever.
That's right.
It can be as easy as, "Hi, I'd like a cheeseburger." "Alright,
Totally.
do you want some french fries with that?" Like, it can be as simple as just not avoiding pronouns, but we don't need to use them. And I've
That's
had
right.
backlash from non-binary individuals because you're not accepting my pronouns. I'm
So
I'm not accepting anybody's pronouns, I guess, if we're gonna put ourselves in that category, And speaking about that, it's like people I'm a white trans man, so people put me up here, right?
mhm.
And instead of us pulling each other up, I'm being pulled down
That's right.
below,
That's right.
when in reality, we should all be moving up
That's right.
and we should be working together and joining forces to
That's right.
educate, to encourage. I've never had a positive experience with trying to help another trans guy out with getting his top surgery because it's always led with, "Oh, you're getting yours before I get mine." Like, I'm excited. I got mine accepted. I want to help you get yours accepted. Like, it's that working together factor has been
Yep.
broken,
Yep.
thrown out
Because
the window. It doesn't
yep.
matter. I've got to be independent. I've got to be unique, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. Yep.
Terminal uniqueness. Is that what it's called? I can't
Well,
quite
yeah, it
remember.
is. It's narcissistic behavior. It's me, me, me. It's become just about me. It's about my pronouns. It's not about a collective of us people and having. And here's why I always call BS on this whole community nonsense of diversity, inclusion. It's not. It's far from diverse and far from inclusive. If you don't do these things you're saying, then you're not part of the community. Well, that's not a diverse community. That's a community of sort of forced forced language or compelled language. And I don't care about your pronouns, and pretty much 99% of the world doesn't. You care about your pronouns, and so that's where people aren't taking responsibility for what they put out. I always say, that it's like people call me she all the time. I find it hilarious because I know the intention, and I think we're not teaching this younger, newer generation about intention. We're teaching them that if people don't respect you, then they hate you, but that's actually not true.
Respect is earned, right?
You
I
think?
mean, maybe I'm a hard ass, but
No, you're
respect
not.
is
You're a
earned.
realist, my
So,
friend. That's called real, and so that's why I don't back down from these sort of the other day, there was a young there's been a couple of them, young trans men, big influencers, whatever that means, right? With hundreds of thousands of followers, maybe even like a million YouTube, just went off on me, and that, I call myself female, and, blah, blah, blah. I'm just thinking, wow, kiddo, I literally transitioned before you were born. Like, I'm probably as old as your parents, and you are just raking me over the coals because you don't like the way I identify.
yeah,
But if you flip that narrative on, I don't like the way you identify, I'm a transphobe. They don't see the hypocrisy, and they
yeah,
also don't see the damage that's damaging to this community. I have fought for years upon years. I've traveled the world. And, again, I only say those things so that you can kind of see my stance, not because I need anybody to pat me on the back. I don't want that, nor do I need it. I've always done my activism for this community because I care about the younger generation. And I think you and I sit here today because we also care about these young people. And I think that I can speak for myself, but I see them being led down a very destructive, non-loving, what you said earlier, which is really profound to me, that you had to look inside, you had to really figure yourself out, and I don't think we're giving these kids those tools. Right, it's become more of a way of sort of being belonging, right, than a actual individual journey. It's become, I belong to this trans space.
yeah, yeah. It's a very
Dangerous.
interesting dynamic. It
It
really
is
is.
it makes me sad because these kids have so much more than what you had even 10 years ago, more what I had 30 years ago, and, I think both of us can say we want these people to have what we have. I have a beautiful life, but what I don't want is this representation of this what we are, that it does not represent me, and what you said earlier, trans women don't represent us, yet they seem to have the most powerful, platform in the trans rights debate. Do you not
Pride
see
Month,
that?
I went around and tried to find the trans area of things
Mhm,
within my game, of course. I was just
mhm,
at home messing around
mhm,
because Pride Month is the most busiest for my business. So,
mhm, mhm.
um, but it was heartbreaking seeing that the only focus was around trans women. Like,
Why
I
is that?
feel like not a broken, but I feel like I'm an invisible trans man.
Yeah,
Trans
I
men are
feel you.
invisible.
Yep,
We're forgotten
yep,
about with sports. We're
yep,
forgotten about with everything, really.
yep.
Um, like, for a long time, I didn't know who the FTM pioneers were.
That's right. Yeah,
It
yep,
took me meeting one guy to really sit and start listening.
that's right.
You know, I was so against everything for the longest time. I was so angry for the longest
Mhm,
time, and then I started to quiet down and focus inward. And then
right.
once I met this individual, he opened my mind. I went into one of his what is it, a panel.
Mhm,
And most of the individuals on that panel were making it clear that they didn't want gender studies done in high school,
mhm,
And
mhm,
at first I was kind of pissed off,
mhm,
truly, because I
mhm.
was like, we should be included. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
then I started really thinking about it and I'm like, no, what he is making sense on is really that students should be focused on themselves and growing through things. And sex education is barely included in curriculum.
I know.
So how come
Yeah,
we're going to ignore sex education?
yeah,
We're going to ignore other forms of education we should learn about
mhm,
I had one school that they spent a lot of money on having a sex education teacher come in, and she taught us so much that to this day I'm very extremely grateful for.
Great.
You know, it
Yeah.
wasn't focused on your sexuality. It was, here's what can be done for people with vaginas,
Mhm.
and here's what can be done for guys or, whoever
Mhm.
needs to wear a condom.
Mhm.
But I compared it to, I had moved away from my elementary school, went to another school in another state, kind of learned all that, came back, and most of those female students that were sitting in class with me were talking about how to avoid getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And it wasn't utilizing condoms or birth control or any of that. It was all of those stupid myths, stand upside down, other things. I don't know.
Stand
Some
upside down.
weird stuff. And
Pull
I
out.
was just like, yeah, yeah, which, yeah, I could go into a
Dangerous.
whole thing about that. But,
Yeah.
and when I really thought about it, I was like, well, shoot, this school, the only sex education we had was it was puberty education, how
Mhm.
to put deodorant on, how
Right.
to wipe your armpits before you put deodorant on, how to use a tampon, how to use a pad, which
Mhm.
one would be better for you.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
boys only learned how to put condoms on a banana.
That's right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what happened to us really actually taking a moment to learn about what we should do for the safety of ourselves
That's right.
and how we should, move forward throughout our journeys?
But also not to be shameful of our bodies. I'm in this sexual business, and I've always been very open about us, especially trans men, and how important it is that we go to the gynecologist, and how important it is that we acknowledge our biology only for our health. You don't have to acknowledge it on a daily basis. You just need to acknowledge it in a for or sort of sexual aspect and an aspect of our actual health, medical health. And God, guys really freaked out on me back in the day, but, I know we do have a large, population growing of trans male with HIV, and I will tell you that I had been talking about that probably 20 or so years ago, and because I knew there were guys who were transitioning and then, wanting to maybe experience having sex with men as a gay trans man. And I just saw that as a red flag because most of the guys that I knew had never had sex with a man before. They identified as gay women, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh gosh, this is a huge train wreck. And no one wanted to talk about it. No one wanted to talk about safety or using condoms, or you have to actually take care of yourself when you show up for a date. You have to have the condom because I'm pretty sure most of those guys are not going to want to use a
Yeah.
condom, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, again, these are really basic, awesome, healthy conversations. And going back to school, sex ed is so much more important to me than gender identity. Um, and I'm not sure why we're teaching gender identity in schools. Do you have I mean, I kinda think I do, but how about you? Do you
I've got some theories, but we won't jump into
That's right.
that.
Mine are theories as well. So, you're
I
right.
just wish that, it's kind of like the old thing of you explore your sexuality in college, right?
Yeah,
That's the
that's right.
years that you're starting to want to explore,
That's right.
truly.
Yeah.
So,
But
and
high school is
pushing,
really important, especially for people maybe who are experimenting with their sexuality or, experimenting just with sex and our bodies are I have a 10-year-old son, and they had a basic sex class, but it wasn't really sex. It was more like consenting, don't let people touch you, basic cool stuff like that, which I think is very awesome.
yes.
And boundaries, teaching boundaries. And my son comes home and says, "Don't touch me. It's not consensual." I'm like, "Right on, kiddo. That's the way." When his mom would touch him, and like, "Don't touch me. That's not." I'm like, "That's so awesome that he actually at 10 understands, what that actually means." And
Something like that moved me. I
yeah,
remember in middle school, we had I think it was called Say Yes campaign or something.
hmm hmm
And it
hmm
was about consensual touching anything. And
hmm
that moved me. That reminded
that's
me
right.
that
Yeah,
everybody around me that's like shouting, "Go have sex,"
Yep. Yep.
that really, like, made me realize that I've got to
Right.
care about my conversations. I've always asked a girl before I kiss her if I can kiss her.
Right
Like,
on.
those things
Beautiful.
I think are the most important. Learning how to
That's
take
right.
care of our bodies, learning how to
Yep.
consent to things, how to say no, when to say no.
Yep. Yep.
Anytime during the process, you can say no, absolutely. But
That's right.
having also, I guess, primarily boys and men understand the importance of that no
Great.
and being
Great.
respectful. I think
That's
those
right.
are probably the most two crucial things, really.
Well, yeah, because guys get themselves into bad situations because they weren't told that, right? My son will not, I think, be in that situation. He will respect. I mean, he has such a diverse, crazy diverse family, right? His uncle's gay. Like, he doesn't really know I'm trans. I mean, he hears it, but I don't think he understands what that means. I mean, I'm just his dad, I'm his stepdad, really. But he doesn't really have any consciousness of that. But our friends are all crazy weirdos, right? Like artists and everything in between. So he has such a great, I think, such a open way of looking at the world, and you can see that. So that being said, I do think some of the stuff that's being said in schools now, and I don't even though I'm part of the LGBT community, I'm not necessarily sure it needs to be plastered everywhere. And my son said to me the other day when I saw a rainbow cake at the store, and I said, "Hey, dude, come here, check this out. What do you think about this rainbow cake?" He goes, every time I see a rainbow now, all I think of is a flag." I was like,
Wow.
"Wow, that's a 10-year-old saying that."
Wow.
Yep,
That's
yep,
really interesting.
totally.
I even have the flag behind me, but
Yeah, it's okay. I mean,
yeah,
it means something to our community, but does it need to be plastered everywhere? Does it
no.
need to be in every Starbucks and every school system and every I don't particularly think it does.
Yeah, there's always that fight back too,
Mhm.
you know? I've had a lot to say about the Bud Light campaign.
Mm.
It's
Tell
always
me.
mentioned about the emotional aspect. Nobody followed up with her.
Oh gosh,
But
I
the
know.
thing is no company follows up with any influencers.
Of course, dude. I
And
mean,
we don't talk about the fact that there were 2 individuals that went ahead with this campaign
yeah.
without getting the approval. So there's a bunch of pieces
Yes, there
that,
is. There
and
is,
I
there
even
is.
add to
Yeah.
now I'm not saying that it's right that she had pushback and hate at
No.
all. That's not
No.
the case.
Yeah.
But your team should have also evaluated what was best there.
Right
We like
on.
I'm in digital media marketing.
That's right, yeah.
You have to really evaluate what is going to be best for your community
Right.
and her community. We've got rules in cannabis marketing.
That's right.
You can't
That's right.
market to any media outlet unless there's like what 80% adult viewers or
That's right.
readers. So
Yep.
why don't we have that same thing for alcohol? Why aren't these teams evaluating who their not customer bases, but who their following are? You have to really evaluate all of that stuff before you make a decision that can be very drastic and impact you, whether
Oh,
that
because
be
they don't
negative
care.
or positive.
Oh, because they don't care, honestly. I'm gonna say as someone who has been I'm also in the cannabis market, and as somebody who has kind of built my own brand, when you're that's why I don't like to call myself an influencer. I think that's a scary word, to be honest with you. I don't wanna be responsible for influencing people. I wanna be responsible for bringing interesting dialogue and debate to the table, but I don't necessarily want to influence
You want
you.
to be a friend.
That's right. That's right. I wanna have
That's the
conversations,
way it
and
should be.
yeah, so that being said, though, I also wonder if, well, it's a Wild West, first off, let's just say that. It's a Wild West when it comes to influencing the influencer market, YouTube, all of it.
Yeah.
There's just it's the Wild West. There's not really the laws that are in place in, the real world, right? When it comes to child labor. So we don't have child labor laws. I don't know if you know that. I think they're changing it now because YouTube is getting a little bit more having to see that. But you can just put your whole family on the internet and 24/7 and have them on camera, and that's against any you could never do that in a television show, right?
Yeah.
There's laws, so there is no specific laws, I think. And when it comes to marketing, you think those people actually care about us? Come on, let's just be real here.
Yeah.
It's money.
It's
They
yep.
thought they were being slick. That's right. They thought. So, do you think Dylan has a manager?
I'm not sure. I'm
Hmm.
not sure.
I'm not
I
sure
was going
either.
to pull data around the audience to kind of
Hmm.
figure out. I've got a competitor analysis tool that I like, but I'm not going to spend $300 just to pull more data
No,
over
why?
somebody. Plus, nobody's going to look at it,
Nope,
unfortunately.
they're not.
But
They're not.
somebody should be managing and taking a look and comparing that data and deciding, are these decisions the right decisions?
I
I
mean, was
don't
that
know if he's
really
got
a
one
good?
or
I mean, I don't think I would have taken a Bud Light ad. I really don't think I would have. I'll be honest with you. I mean, that probably she got a ton of cash. There's no doubt about it. And so now it's all sketchy. Did she get paid? Didn't she get paid? Did they just say no? She got paid. There's no way that person would do anything without getting paid. I guarantee you that they will not do it.
influencer campaigns.
That's right. So she got a pretty nice check, I'm sure. But now she's mad because Bud Light is like, well, we used you, duh. And you know what I mean? Like, so what I wanted to say to Dylan, which, I don't really care about Dylan. I mean, I think Dylan is Dylan. Whatever Dylan's doing, I'm not gonna, that's not my space. And
Their life, not mine.
that's right. You're building
Yeah,
your house, my friend. When you build your house, you better make sure your foundation is solid. So, whatever house she's building, and don't get mad at me out there, people, because I'm calling her she. I know people are get say, he's a he. I'm just not gonna play that game. I'm gonna respect Dylan because that's just the way kind of person that I am. But that being said, um, I think that I see some sadness coming from that space now, and I see like it's scary to me. It's sad to me. I don't want to see that person break down and have a mental breakdown and
yeah. We're
become
not
that's
meant for all that influence. Like,
no,
as
gosh,
individuals, I
no.
think they say that it's like 10 to 20 people should be in our range of influence. So having millions of people is
Oh
going
my
to
god,
impact us negatively, truly.
100%. And you can
So,
see it. I mean, you can kind of even see she's not even around that much anymore, right after the Bud Light fiasco. Um, I think we should all learn from that. Our community should learn from that. People should learn from that. What does it all mean? It's all false. These corporations will use us, spit us out. They're using us now. So I'm going to
yeah,
parlay now into something that's very important to me. And we might have different opinions, which is also could be completely fine with me. But I do see something very scary happening uh, to me in my older eyes with children in our community, and it is I'm alarmed by it, and I'm not going to say there isn't a kid out there who has dysphoria. Of course there are. I mean, you might have been one of those. There's no doubt, but I see something that is quite I will just say scary to me and alarming to me, and I see money attached to it. There's a lot of money attached to a lot of these things, and I think people don't step back and look at the whole picture, and they're just like, "Well, we gotta save these kids." Well, what does that actually mean? We have to save these kids. What
yeah,
about the kids that we've already saved, and they turned around and said, "Wait a minute, I should have never done this before." But we don't even have this conversation in our own community about detransitioners. They're constantly
yeah,
just going after them as if they're bad and they hate us. And instead of us saying, "Wait a minute, our community caused this," we need to take responsibility for those kids who transitioned and then realized that they should have never done it. So with that, I just want to see where you're coming from in that
yeah.
situation. Yeah.
So let's talk about data.
Great, great.
Data is, of course, focused on one section of people,
Mhm,
one group.
mhm.
And our data has been suppressed in many ways
Okay,
because we needed that forward motion, right?
okay,
I'm going to put it that way.
great.
And maybe 4 years ago,
Mhm.
I was creating a course to provide to healthcare
Okay,
facilities.
great.
And while I was doing that, I went ahead and looked into statistics to kind of build my presentation out. And one of the statistics was around detransitioners.
Okay.
And there was no mention over people detransitioning for themselves.
Mhm.
It was always put on not having the right providers,
Mm.
family not accepting, um, and so on and so forth. I can't even remember
Mm.
what it was because that was a few years back.
Okay.
But if we were to really pull data now, I mean, just in my circle of influence, I
Mhm.
guess we can say, the
Mhm.
people that I know at least 5 detransitioners,
Yeah.
one of which talks about it a little bit. She's a lesbian,
Mhm.
and she really kind of put it out there that she did this as a step because she didn't want to be a lesbian. There's that homophobic behavior happening.
Yeah.
And heck, there's other countries that have put it in place that, to rid homos,
I know.
um,
Yep.
make them or make them
Yep.
transition.
Yep.
But there's significant amount of people that are honestly not happy with that at
That's
all.
right.
And they shouldn't be viewed as somebody that's just running away or somebody that's less than.
Mhm.
We have
Mhm.
heck, we have different stories within our community where,
Mhm.
like, I lived as primarily a boy person, I
Mhm.
guess we could say, throughout elementary school. I was constantly asked if I was a boy or a girl. I was very like, earliest memory, I remember arguing with a little girl and saying, "Oh, I'm a little boy." And throughout school, it was like different instances of that. So my journey is going to be my journey. But I
Right.
know some trans men that lived as lesbians until they were in their 30s and 40s.
Me.
And
Yeah.
it's okay to have your journey.
That's
We need
right.
to allow room for us to talk about it, you know?
That's right.
So
That's right.
there's a significant amount of people out there that the data needs to be reran. And
Mhm.
instead of running the data again, we're having this entire argument for the sake of moving forward. But the reality is if you really sit down and look, somebody is profiting off of all of this.
Thank you.
Many
Yep.
people are profiting off of this.
Yep.
Russell Brand actually kind of opened up about COVID and
Mhm. Mhm.
how it was it 9 different individuals ended up increasing by billions of dollars around
Wow.
vaccinations and other
Wow.
things. There were a
Wow.
lot of millionaires that were created from there,
For sure.
and we don't think about all of that.
No.
We don't. And I'm not saying anything about, controversial stuff around COVID. I'm saying
No.
that
I know.
there's this significant amount of income that's being created
That's
from
right.
these agendas, whether
Well,
they're
I
good
mean,
or bad.
I'm not anti-vax, just so you know, I'm not. But what I am is anti-misinformation. I'm anti-forcing us to do something that maybe we don't want to do. Maybe lying about some things which have been put out
Yeah.
there regarding this. I mean, again, I'm going to use my son as an example. He had to go to the doctor and get his regular checkup. And then what did the doctor say at the end? Hey, do you want me to give him his fourth booster? Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, so I don't know. I just feel like there's this push to keep this COVID thing going on some level. And I'm not I do think vaccines are important on some level. I definitely do. But at the same time, there's something going on there. And big pharma is big pharma. It's not called big pharma for no reason.
And it's been around doing this for a long time. I
That's
mean, look
right.
at opiates. What, the '80s was
There you
when
go, friend.
opiates really started kinda taking off? Look at
That's
the
right.
addiction rate. It's
That's right.
millions of people,
Oh my god,
probably even into the billions.
The Oxy thing, dude, it destroyed this country. It destroyed so many people's lives. I mean, if no one's ever saw that show on Hulu called Dope Sick, you should watch it. It will blow your mind. There's parallels to me in what's happening with the way they're just handing out testosterone to young people as if this stuff is powerful. Look at me and him. I mean, this
Yeah,
stuff is not, we're not going back, friend. And, I just am shocked that you could go into a clinic like, Planned Parenthood. And how do they have the authority to have a nurse practitioner tell you you're trans after 40 minutes? Let's give you an hour, okay? An hour, let's say an hour intake, and you're walking out with a prescription of testosterone as if it's something that you could just stop. You can't. There's a lot of
I've been
negative
off of
side effects.
hormones before, and
Yeah,
the only thing that changed was intense cramping, and I
there
started
you
my
go.
period again. My voice changed a little bit, so
Mhm,
now singing isn't quite right.
mhm.
I still sing.
Right on, right
But
on. Are you
yeah,
on testosterone now? Are you
I am, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It was, I think, conflict of interest for the doctor, for the provider. She kept putting me
Oh,
on the route of, "If you get in touch with this person to show that you need to be on this medication, we'll keep you on it. If you
what?
get me in contact with this person," like, it was, I think I went 4 or 5 times, and then the
Wow,
last time I just said, "This is a waste of my money. This is a waste of my time."
wow.
And then when I moved, I was able to find a new doctor to continue my prescription. So, those are the times of
That's
what
right.
now where we're at is it's so easy for you to get taken care of.
Yeah, it went
It's
from
so protected.
here, right? It just went all the way to whatever. You want some testosterone? You can order it on the internet. There's like, I'm not even going to say their names because I particularly don't care for those organizations. There's two websites you can go to, pay $150, talk to a nurse practitioner for 30 minutes. And I know this because I actually had a guy do it for me because I wanted to actually not say, not speak about something I don't know about, but I actually do know. And he went on 30 minutes. He said he got the testosterone and they shipped it to him in a gift box. Unbelievable to me. I'm like, "What?" Like,
So quick. It is.
it's not right. It's
When
not
our
right.
thing isn't that we should be giving ADHD pills to minors
That's right.
to keep them from jumping all over their chair for
Yep.
8 hours, waiting 8 hours through school. Like,
Yep.
we have talked about that and not wanted to provide medication like that for
Yep.
these minors.
That's right.
So why isn't the conversation around how we can, work through whatever we're going through?
Well, why isn't mental health first? Why
Yeah,
did we I keep telling people we have a mental, and it's okay if you don't want to say that,
we
but
have a
for me,
mental health crisis.
and also, I have a
1000%.
mental disorder called gender dysphoria. I do accept it as a mental disorder. I don't think of it as a bad thing. I think of it as a treatment plan, and I think it as I got a
Yeah.
diagnosis, which is actually really positive for me. It makes me understand why I don't feel like the next person over there, and it never was negative to me ever. It was always a very awesome thing to get this diagnosis and to be able to get my medication and to move forward. And we don't have diagnoses anymore. You're just trans because you say you are. How absurd is that?
I wanna touch base on something. I recently read a book, I always forget the book title, so
That's
I'll
okay,
have
we
to
can
get
put
that
it.
to you, but
Yeah, get it, and I'll put it in the
that's perfect.
description. Yeah.
So this book talks about how contagious things are
Mhm.
and how epidemics start.
Okay.
And during the discussion, how viral things go. So
Mhm.
during the discussion within the book, it touches a key point about, I can't remember what country it was. It's been a while since I read it, but this country did not see any suicide rates at all. And the year that one person committed suicide, there were like however many more after that,
Mm.
because the idea was opened up to someone.
Mm.
Now, let's talk about my middle school years. Cutting was the big thing.
Wow, yeah. Yep.
I decided to start cutting to fit in with the people around me. So, what are we on the next epidemic or epidemic? My bad.
No, no, no,
But
no, on some
look
level,
at where we're at.
on some level, it is an epidemic. Let's just be real here, my friend, and
It's going viral.
it's going viral, and you just made an excellent point there by that. Of course, young people are seeing other young people. There is no way that this trans. So let's just get back to this epidemic. I know people don't like that word, but do you know what the actual definition of an epidemic is?
Break it down
I'm
for us.
sorry.
Do you have it, or should
No,
I
I
go ahead and
don't.
pull it
I
up?
don't. If you have a second, because I do think this is an epidemic on some level, and I do think that kids are being influenced. I mean, when you don't have to have a diagnosis and you can just self ID as a trans person, why wouldn't you? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you? If you're all of your buddies are like, I'm trans now, right? I mean, it's like I'm emo, I'm punk rock, you know what I mean?
we're influenced by other people. It's
There's that
natural.
word,
We're
influence.
sheep, right? If you wanna
That's
get into
right.
the whole topic of God, we're always put as sheep. We
That's
need
totally right.
guidance from Jesus.
That's
I'm
right.
not saying I'm religious, but
No, no, no. That's okay. That's a great analogy because people like to, they do. That's why do you think churches or, and again, we're not being anti-religion. We're just saying, why do you think people seek? They're constantly seeking guidance. They're seeking a way of being. They're
and
seeking
approval.
knowledge. Right, right. And so how can little 15-year-old kids on TikTok not be influenced? And then you have influencers saying bad things about me, that I'm a bad person, that I'm a transphobic, don't listen to
Bringing
me.
you
Like,
down.
that's right. Trying to bring me down so
When they
that
just wanna pull you up.
that's right. And again, I'm 60 years old. These are 20-year-old kids doing that. It's like, I see what you're doing, buddy. Like, don't play that game with me because I will squash you. And if you want to have a debate, none of these kids, these influencers will ever debate me. They won't. They won't sit here and have like me and you are having a
Because they
conversation.
want to make fun of somebody,
There you go.
That's all I see, is the
That's
constant
me
make
too.
fun of.
That's why I don't do those. What do they call them? What do they call them when they take somebody's video and then they just kind of
Like
make
that
fun?
response back thing, that
Yeah,
duel or
I
something.
find that to be so childish, and no offense to all my buddies who do it and all of that. That's okay. That's your platform, and that's okay. But for me, I just don't feel that that's the message I want to give out there, right?
Our
So
advocacy doesn't have to be on the front lines.
we don't have to keep beating each other up.
Yeah.
Like, you can beat me up all you want, my friend. My work and my integrity stands for itself. You can say all kinds of things about me, but all anyone has to do is just ask me. I'm not afraid to have the conversation or even afraid to say, I don't believe in trans kids. I don't. And I think we need to stop calling them that. And I think we need to call them kids who have dysphoria or kids who are dealing with some trauma or many, many levels of things, just to shove a kid, right? I would say the same about gay. How do you know that kid is gay? He could just be experimenting with.
Let them explore.
My God, are you kidding me? I did so much exploration when I was a kid. I didn't. You just get lumped into you must be that, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't
I
called a
don't need an
trans kid.
identity label to be a human, truly.
And I think it's dangerous when we start to, if you, and a good example, look at any of these kids' bios. They have billions of things going on there, flags and animals and emojis and they, them, though, these, or za, za, za. I'm like, okay, that's not
It's a
healthy.
lot.
It's not healthy. Mm-mm.
And if you're being misgendered because you're got so much there, I gotta say I'm resilient as hell because I was misgendered.
There you go.
So if we're sticking within everybody's guidelines, who's going to ever become resilient?
So how did we get here?
I don't know. I don't know, man. I've been wondering and asking myself that this
Oh my
entire
God.
time.
It's the $1,000,000 question, dude. How the heck did we get here?
I wanted to share something with you because, that whole get your pronouns
Yeah.
thing. And I guess, we'll put it as the pain that comes when you're misgendered,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Something that I had to come to the realization with was when I went to, it was my first church that I went to in a really long time.
Okay.
And when we were sitting in there was a guy that was the big question was asked of how do we get other people to believe in God?
Mhm.
And one guy was kind of on that shove it down their throat kind of
Mhm.
method.
Mhm.
And it made me sit back and go, this kind of applies to my pronouns
Mm.
because I can't shove it down somebody's throat
Right.
to have them accept me or, any of that. I have to take a moment and maybe educate, or I do gentle reminders
Mhm.
where, like, my mom, she's been working through my cousin who's
Mhm.
transitioning.
Mhm.
She's been transitioning for many years now.
Mhm.
So my mom will use her old name and sometimes use the male pronouns.
Mhm.
And I just gently go, oh, she's
Mhm.
doing pretty good, you
Right.
know?
There you go.
And I just continue the conversation without stopping and halting
Mhm.
because that's going to cause heads to butt and people to
Mhm.
feel backed into a wall.
Right.
People are going to fight what's being thrown at them
That's right.
versus opening up that dialogue and saying, like, how can I help you
That's right.
with, getting this I don't wanna say right, but, how can I
Yeah,
kinda educate you around this?
that's right.
And even just as simple as me using the female pronouns, my mom just immediately jumps on board,
There you go.
you know? It doesn't need to be a fight, it's just that little
That's
gentle reminder.
because it's just respect, and it's just not make on both sides, friend, on both sides. It's not, "You better call me he, if you don't, you're a bigot and a Nazi," and a that's just shutting people down immediately, even
Yeah,
including me. I can't stand to be spoken to that way, and most people don't like that. If you come to it and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm a biological female, transition dude. I really just like to be." People are so gracious to me. People who are calling other people, he and being kind of that way will not do that to me. And they basically say, because you respect us, Buck, and
yeah,
you're not forcing it. And I really want people out there to hear me. I am not okay and I'm not on board with this forcefulness of telling me I have to call you something I don't see. What if I don't see you as a woman and you look very male? And there's a lot of nuance that we're missing in all of this. And intention, and but we as the trans community need to just sort of pull back a little bit here and calm down. And I existed as a transsexual man for 30 years, honestly, and I haven't had a bad time in this world. I've been extremely accepted all over the world, and it's because I meet people in the middle. And I never have expected people to see if they want to call me she. I really learned to just be okay with it,
yeah,
because right?
I got to that point.
Intention. That's right. You just because the thing is this, I'm not gonna sit here and get my panties in a wad because you see me as a she. That's okay, dude. Now can we just move forward
Yeah,
and, like, do whatever we're supposed to be doing, or I never ever have to see you again. Never
yeah.
have to speak to you, never have to see you.
We've gotta accept that as a community.
That's right.
It's okay to let people go. We don't need to keep fighting people to hear us and listen, and
Because it's not doing us any good. It's
no.
actually hurting us. We are back, we are sliding back, dude. We had so much, I'm telling you. We really do. I don't care what anybody says. Go live 10 years ago. Go. We have so much as trans people, and
Obama
oh
ended
my
up doing
god.
so much
That's
for all of
right.
that,
Right.
and that was, what, 2008?
That's right. That's
So
right.
I
I wouldn't
got
live
my
anywhere
rights.
else in the world, dude. I lived in another country. Like, I'm telling you, this country is awesome. And there's also a very American sentiment I see a lot coming from a younger generation. They better calm down.
I'm the most patriotic that I've been in a long time.
Me too. Me too.
So, because I
Mm,
just want, United States of America. Other
That's
countries are
right.
calling us just America,
That's right.
and that's
That's right.
that's heartbreaking,
United. It
actually.
is. And, I just did an interview with a Russian trans woman. It's coming out soon. I think you'll really enjoy it. But wow, wait do you see what she says and what they say about us? And, it's actually scary. We influence people out there, community out there. We have a huge influence on the world. And when we start acting like insane wingnuts, what do you think that does? People look at us like we're crazy, and there's no way they're going to let that happen in other countries. And that's what she said to me. They're going to actually stop it. You can actually transition in Russia, but she said that they're actually looking at us and going, they're touching children. We are never going to let that happen, and we're going to shut the whole system down. That's what people need to see. Our influence here is not helping trans people in other countries at
There's a
all.
significant amount of countries that are refusing to do blockers too,
That's right.
because there's not enough data.
That's
So,
right. That's right.
really. And even with
Really.
trans men, I mean, some men have been on for, like, what, 50 years or
That's
something?
right.
There's
That's
still
right.
not enough data.
There's not enough data because we are a small group of we've always been small and we always will be. What you see today is not real. And that a lot of these kids are going to grow up really mad that no one said or helped them kind of work
They
through
just
their
need to be
dysphoria.
heard.
That's all. They need to work through their
Exactly.
trauma, their
I wanna hear
dysphoria.
you, and I wanna
That's
help
right.
you.
That's right. And I want you to be happy. I don't want you to be if you're trans I always say to these youngsters, "Why are you so angry?" If your transition should make you happy. It should make you feel like you have so much, but you're all acting like you don't have anything and then the whole world is against you.
It's not a rebellion flag.
It's not. Thank you, friend. But it seems like it. All I see of these marches and this Desire
Pride
to
has
s
changed.
oh my god.
Pride has changed so much. I
Oh
wrote
my
a
god.
10-page essay back in high school and learned all about the LGBT history,
Mhm.
and so much of it has been rewritten.
That's right. Oh
So much of
gosh.
it has been forgotten.
Mm,
I
I
never
get so
enjoyed
mad.
Pride because it's supposed to be the march of showing that we're here,
That's right.
not whatever it is.
Well, it's become a sort of "Mm, F you if you don't like us. We're
Yeah.
coming for your kids." I'm like, "What? Are you really saying that? After everything we've been going through, you idiots are saying you're just giving them just why don't you just give
Child
them?"
protection services should be coming after my kids, not other people, right?
Oh my god, and they already we have this stigma around us that we're perverted weirdos that, want to indoctrinate children. You just gave them more ammo,
Yeah,
and,
especially
it's
when you're
v
dancing in your underwear at
totally
Pride.
irresponsible behavior, going to the White House and showing your boobs and, yeah,
Pride around the countries, other countries is like I watched a video the other day, and it
wow,
was like they barely touched on Pride in America,
that's
but
right.
other countries, it was like it was beautiful. People that were actually
Yep,
brought together
yep,
and remembering
yep,
the original
that's right.
start of everything.
The original start of everything, and,
We're forgetting it, and we're trying to erase. I could go in forever about
dude,
trying to erase homosexuality
oh my
because
god,
we do if
uh
we you know,
it's shocking and lying about our history and who was at Stonewall and who it's so gross and
very
it
different.
does it's very weird. I'm friends with, Fred Sargent, who was at Stonewall and one of the originals, and they're just erase him and what the actual
Not
fight was
allowing
about.
his information to be out there.
That's
What
right,
had happened to him
silencing.
is been silenced.
He's been silenced, which should scare the crap out of everyone in this community. That we've been taken over by some group of people who I don't even know what's going on here. But
Cancel
that being said,
culture and that deplatform culture.
wow, dude, wow, holy crap! Now you see why the LGB wants to separate from every. I get it. I actually do get it. It wasn't for gay men, I wouldn't be here. Gay men were my sort of pillar. They were
We
the
gotta
ones.
respect the different group thing. We
That's
really
right.
do. It's
That's right.
okay. I've been questioned about that. Why do I support LGB? Well, because
Of
I should be
course.
supported too,
That's
and
right.
because they should be supported as well.
That's right.
Like, my
That's right.
partner is bisexual. She's
Hmm.
lived many years of dealing with people judging her, and
That's
that's from
yeah.
both sides. You gotta pick
Yep.
one, you gotta pick one.
Yep.
Well, no, her group of individuals might
Yep.
need their own area
I,
to express together
why is
and
that such a
connect.
bad? Uh, come on, man. Why is that a bad thing? Gay men have always had their own space. Lesbians have always had their own space. Like, like if you don't like it, don't go. Don't go. Like,
I
create
always
your
wanted
own.
my own trans space. I
That's
got asked
right.
that question of if the T should be involved at the beginning of my transition,
Yeah.
and at the time, I was listening to everybody's conversation about it and hearing that
Yep.
most of the trans people were backing out of the community,
Yep.
and, as I went on, it was like, "Yeah, I think it should be separated, just because I wanna be
It
able to
should.
have my own space with others."
That's
But we
right.
were always the LGBTQ plus community, and
Hmm.
now we just keep adding more and more and more and more. And when I say something of I'm an LGBTQ plus digital media marketer,
Right.
that is already a mouthful. The plus sign is there for
That's right.
showcasing others. It's not that I'm against who you are. It's not that I'm
That's right.
against your identity. It's that this is way too many letters.
It can't
And
doesn't
we've got
rep.
a plus.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous behavior. And also, if people don't want to be part of it, they don't have to be. Grow up, people. It's like, you know what? And most of the stuff that's coming out is all about trans and queer people. It has nothing to do with. So I hate when they say this is an LGBTQ. No, it isn't. It's not an LGBTQ issue. It's an issue for the trans and queer and
Yeah.
intersex and whoever else you're adding on there. So stop saying that. And that's why they want to be sort of removed. There's a lot of homophobia coming from this new movement. And if you don't date a trans person, you're a transphobe. Well, what? Then you're a homophobe. So you want to start calling each other names now, like we're in fucking
Yeah.
kindergarten?
Yeah. I've kinda heard that with lesbians.
Yeah,
Trans women should be accepted, blah, 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 and I think the reality is a lot of women don't want to sleep with somebody that's got that part.
Male genitalia,
And
whatever you wanna
it's
call it, a
okay.
penis. Yeah,
It's not that they're against
they're not.
trans women,
They're
they
not.
just most of them aren't,
They're not
putting
attracted
that
to
on
trans.
somebody is not okay. It's not.
Sexuality is innate in your body, right? So, like, I'm attracted to very specific
You like your
kinds
preferences.
preference, and, like, I'm not attracted to trans women. That so what? I might see one that I might maybe, but I would tell you that I've been doing this for a long time, and most of my partners have always just been, biological women or biological men. No big deal. I'm not saying that I'm anti any of that if someone came along, but I could tell you my
Just what I
preference
want in the
and
bedroom.
what I see and what turns me on, and
Yeah,
that is in no way transphobic. And to say, these things, and I find it to be very homophobic when you start pushing somebody who identifies as a gay woman to have to sleep with someone or have sex with someone that,
yeah,
and that they're not going around saying, I hate trans women, they're not doing that. They're just saying, I'm not interested.
and it's okay. So,
It should be okay, because if it's not, that's kind of rapey. It is.
I would classify it under there. You're
That's
putting
right.
something on me that I wouldn't want,
That's right.
and
Don't
it's okay for me not to want it.
That's right, friend. And
So,
whatever flavor of ice cream you like, you eat it, and I'm not gonna force you to have another ice cream, because that's just we're supposed to be living in a country where we get to make our freedom of choices, and it's getting weird, dude. Real
yeah.
weird. So tell us a little bit about we're gonna end our conversation here, but tell me a little bit about your company so we can get people to know what you do.
Yeah, so, it's branding for Pride. It's an
Mhm.
LGBTQ plus, digital media marketing
Great.
agency.
Great.
I focus around branding primarily
Mhm.
and speaking to your audience with
Mhm.
the right kind of messaging. A
Great.
lot of these organizations are putting out so much information that really doesn't explain what their brand is,
Mhm. Mhm.
showcasing news articles and other things that don't align with what your service or your product or your solution should be for people. I've noticed that that's been a big thing, so that's why I started this company. I've been
Great.
in the marketing space for many years, but it took me a while to really think about my you know niche. So yeah,
Great.
I've been kind of revamping a little bit and leaning into wanting to do some courses
Mhm.
and the educational aspect, because I found that truly it's been hard to work with different organizations.
Mm.
A lot
Mm.
of people after Pride Month
Mm.
cut all costs, and that has definitely significantly impacted my business. So
Sorry.
being able to just provide that info or provide this kind of service to my
Yeah.
community has been hard. I'm a
Yeah.
Pride 365 champion. It
Right
should
on.
be 365 days out of the year that we
Yeah.
continue this messaging. Don't
That's right.
follow the guidelines of what these organizations are doing, like Bud Light and these big
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah.
We've got to actually continue this conversation, this dialogue, keep showcasing your products.
That's right.
Income equals impact.
That's right.
You have to focus on those measures to create impact.
That's great.
So navigating that field as I go and coming up with where I should lean into next so that I can lead with the most impact.
Excellent, dude. I just really love your attitude, and I think you will help our community come back around and see. Yeah, we're not just here for Pride June. We live 24/7, 365 days a year. When I had my cannabis company, same thing. They would only come to me during June, right? And then I started getting upset about it. I'm like, hey, wait a minute here. We were part of this community for a long time. Like, you can't just use us. And people heard me, and I was like, it's not that I want you to be like gay, 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 but I just want you to know that, we are participants in this,
I
and
exist.
that's right, and,
We exist.
that's right, and
The original Pride.
the only way you get rid of any kind of hate or any kind of racism is by joining forces, right? By integrating into the world
Pulling you up.
together. That's right. We've got to integrate. We cannot be over here and over here. That's how I really do think racism will end, by integrating with each other and really having difficult conversations, listening to both sides. I think when you start saying you're white and that is actually not healthy. That's
You're
not
making me hate myself.
That's right.
Like
And that's
truly.
not in any way, shape, or form helping us sort of understand the horrible history of racism. But how do we as white people, I don't like that. I want to know, how can I help to sort of help us all
Yeah.
integrate into the world together. And I think
Yeah.
your message and your company can help people not just feel like they can do it in June. And so anyone who's looking for any services, hire a guy like him because he can really help you and help you in a way that's look, I make products and I don't just make it in June. I make products forever, right? And I don't just focus on that. I started to say anyone can use my stuff. At the same time, anyone can hire an LGBT person, but I don't hire them just because they're LGBT. That's an aspect,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's get us integrated back into the world again. And I think people start feeling resentful when they have to hire somebody because of X, Y, and Z, as opposed to, can this person really do the job
Yeah.
correctly? I think it's a very important. But anyways,
Yeah.
so James is an awesome buddy, and he, as you can see, he really cares about moving us forward and cares about these conversations. Why I really dig you, my friend, and I feel like we're a family on some level. And this is what I actually want the world to see, that we don't all hate each other in this community. We're
No.
we're we're like
We're
any
supposed to be
community.
brothers and sisters.
That's
So
right.
let's be brothers and
And let's
sisters.
be honest about who we are and what we want to accomplish in this world. And so with that, James, I so appreciate your time and sitting here having these
Yeah.
conversations with me. And um,
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.
yeah,
So thank
great.
you for picking on my brain.
Excellent, friends. So everyone, remember, like, subscribe, send this to your friends. Always open to, yeah, we're going to put his information down there. Remember, just really by helping us move this channel forward, we get to have these amazing conversations and bring back some sanity to whatever the heck's going on in this world right now. But that's it. I'll
Listen
see
to
you
each
guys.
other.
I'll see you guys on Wednesday and at the live. So thanks again for joining us.